Chapter 740. Alright, since Brother Sun didn't disappoint me, I Yi Chen won't disappoint Brother Sun either. Yi Chen had chosen to save Sun Tianlang with the intention of making use of him. After all, saving the latter wouldn't require much effort, and he believed that the latter would have some suspicions. At this moment, Yi Chen had truly acknowledged Sun Tianlang as a companion. I don't know where your confidence comes from, but in my opinion it's foolish. Windstorm King spoke. As a half-step king at the same level as Punishment King, Windstorm King was a nameless existence. However, those who knew his bottom line wouldn't dare to look down on him. It should be known that half-step kings were divided into several levels. There were ordinary half-step kings, well-known half-step kings, and peak half-step kings. Above peak half-step kings were the scarce few strongest half-step kings. Although Windstorm King might not have the strength of a peak half-step king, he was definitely the closest. Not to mention that Yi Chen was only at late sea of Soul Realm. Even a peak half-step king wouldn't be able to take him down in a short time. Moreover, Windstorm King had calculated that Yi Chen's strength would at most reach the level of a well-known half-step king. The temporary state of being one with the world wouldn't allow Yi Chen's profound to improve too much. A 10% increase in each would already be the limit. Windstorm King, I'll deal with this kid. You stay on guard from the side. Iron Hand King clenched his fists, letting out a metallic sound. Don't worry, they won't be able to escape even if they grow wings. Windstorm King formed seals with both of his hands, and one wind wall after another spread out like concentric circles. Kid, you can die. Seeing that Windstorm King had already sealed off the scene, Iron Hand King's face revealed a sinister expression as he gloomily stared at Yi Chen. However, before he could finish his words, he discovered that Yi Chen was already less than 10 meters away from him. The latter waved his hand, and countless cutting power enveloped him, hard to perceive with naked eyes. The sharp cutting power caused the Iron Hand King to feel a chill run down his spine. His pupils involuntarily contracted into 2 dots, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. Yi Chen's sudden attack had already caught him off guard. What shocked him even more was that he could not even see the trajectory of the sword chi. He could only vaguely sense that the space was filled with the power of slicing. Each slice of power was extremely threatening, and all of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was extremely fast. This kid must not be allowed to leave alive. As a veteran half-step king, Iron Hand King's strength was even higher than Ghostwood King and Gopher King. His reaction speed was not something the two could compare to. Almost subconsciously, he crossed his arms in front of his body. At the same time, the protective Zhen Yuan outside his body was strengthened to the limits of his control. Bronze runes spread out from his armor and stuck to his protective Zhen Yuan. Clang, 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 clang. In the next instant, countless sparking arcs appeared on the surface of Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan. Most of the arcs were on his chest, interweaving together. Pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. His spiritual sword contained the wood profound and fast profound, reaching 60% and 50% completion respectively. Adding his cultivation base having broken through to late sea of Soul Realm, his Zhen Yuan's purity was even higher. The might of the spiritual sword was several times stronger than before. The protective Zhen Yuan of a half-step king would not be able to completely block it. Haha, you've truly given me a big shock. However, I have the bronze armor protecting my body. I'm naturally undefeatable. Let's see how you break my defense. Iron Hand King laughed loudly, with an ostentatious expression. However, he was inwardly shocked. If he did not have the bronze armor, he would not have the slightest confidence in defending against this sword. This sword was simply too fast and too sharp. He could not imagine how Yi Chen had suddenly become so powerful. It was as if he had become a completely different person. Pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact indeed lives up to its name. Seems like I'll have to spend some effort. Yi Chen did not expect Iron Hand King to have a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact. This way, the difficulty of killing the latter would increase by several folds. Fortunately, activating the pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact required a large amount of Zhen Yuan. He did not believe that the opponent could use it endlessly. Thunder Devour. Since the spiritual sword didn't work, Yi Chen used Thunder Devour. A thin layer of black light pellet fiercely stabbed at Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan like a sharp blade of thunder. Rumble! Iron Hand King's feet left the ground and was blasted away. Berserk thunder wrapped around him, making him look like a human-shaped lightning bolt. Iron Hand King, do you need me to make a move? Windstorm King's expression turned grave. He almost didn't dare to believe his eyes, thinking that he was hallucinating and everything was fake. No need. Iron Hand King fiercely stood up and inwardly thought, I've underestimated this kid's strength. However, Late Sea of Soul Realm is Late Sea of Soul Realm after all. His defense can't be that high. I don't believe that he can withstand my attack. Violent Gold God Fist. Stamping his feet on the ground, Iron Hand King's entire body shot up and punched at Yi Chen, who was 100 meters away. Following this punch, countless metal fists appeared in the void. A large number of metal fists crazily smashed out like tornadoes. Iron Hand King's strength was displayed without a doubt at this moment. Iron Hand King, you'll die without a doubt today. If the opponent did not have a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact, he would have died long ago. However, Yi Chen was not anxious. Iron Hand King's Zhen Yuan was limited, and he could not use it for long. Generally speaking, a half-step King's Zhen Yuan could use a pseudo-supreme grade offensive artifact 3 to 5 times, while a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact could only be used for a cup of tea's worth of time. Facing this punch, Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster Sword, and a dark golden ripple blossomed in the void, shattering the metal fists. What? His Metal Profound has also improved so much? Iron Hand King had always thought that Yi Chen's spiritual sword and Thunder Devour were so powerful because of his great luck. In the past, it was not like there had been no one who had advanced 1 or 2 profounds by leaps and bounds, under the state of being one with the world. But it was only 1 or 2. However, up until now, Yi Chen had already revealed 4 profounds. Wood Profound, Fast Profound, Thunder Profound and Metal Profound. Each of them had improved by leaps and bounds. Boundless Gold Ripple. Yi Chen did not give Iron Hand King any chance to catch his breath. He waved his Thunder Disaster Sword again and again, sending dark golden ripples toward Iron Hand King, rapidly consuming his Zhen Yuan. Windstorm King, make your move. The pressure on Iron Hand King increased greatly. The Zhen Yuan in his body was disappearing like water. The speed at which the bronze armor was consuming Zhen Yuan was truly frightening. He could not hold on much longer. Without needing Iron Hand King's order, Windstorm King had already made his move. The first move he made was his proudest move, the Storm Spear. A spear light flickered in the void as it pierced toward Yi Chen's forehead. Ding! Yi Chen pulled out an upper-grade sword with his left hand and cut the Storm Spear in half. He then transmitted his voice to Sun Tianlang and Morong Qingqing, who wanted to help. Don't make a move. Watch Jiang Tian. Either he didn't kill, or he would kill them all. All right. Sun Tianlang and Morong Qingqing halted their steps and secretly locked onto Jiang Tian's figure, guarding against his escape. Storm Rain. Windstorm King saw that even his proudest move could do nothing to Yi Chen, so he roared and waved his palm in the air. Storm Spears filled the sky. These Storm Spears only had 1/5 of the original Storm Spear's might, but their quantity was several hundred times more. It was completely capable of winning through sheer quantity. Explosive Gold God Fist. Iron Hand King didn't care about consuming a huge amount of Zhen Yuan as he performed his most powerful attack. Countless metal fists turned into a torrential rain as they attacked toward Yi Chen. That kind of sound and that kind of violence could probably scare a normal half-step king. At this moment, the two were fighting with their lives on the line. They didn't want Yi Chen to continue living. Right now, Yi Chen was already frightening enough for them. Facing the two's most powerful attacks, Yi Chen's expression didn't change at all. On the Thunder Disaster Sword, a massive black thunder ball appeared and grew larger and larger until it reached 10 meters in diameter. It was like a black sun that didn't give off any light, and all of the thunder power was contained within. Go! Yi Chen threw out a sword attack toward the center of the two. Boom! Sun Tianlang, Morong Qingqing, and Jiang Tian, who were on the periphery, were all blasted back, their faces pale. Meanwhile, that wind wall was instantly shattered. In the end, boundless thunder power radiated out in all directions with the empty space as the center. The passage connecting the empty space seemed to have become a pipe, completely filled with thunder power. If someone were to come at this moment, they wouldn't have a good time. Iron Hand King and Windstorm King bore the brunt of the attack, their feet sliding on the ground. Iron Hand King had the protection of his bronze armor, so he was fine. However, Windstorm King was in a much more difficult situation. Although he was stronger than Iron Hand King, he didn't have a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact, so he couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of smoking blood. This kid is troublesome. Let's go. Windstorm King's complexion was unsightly. He had never thought that he would be forced to this extent by a youngster. This was simply a disgrace. You can't escape. Yi Chen held his sword with both hands and slashed at Windstorm King. A crescent moon-shaped sword energy flew out and brushed past Windstorm King's body. Poochie! Windstorm King's head and left arm separated from his body, blood spraying everywhere. A clear sword mark was left on the pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact. One sword. Windstorm King had fallen. This sword was indeed Yi Chen's strongest sword move, Waning Moon. Iron Hand King had a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact, and Waning Moon might not be able to break through it. However, Windstorm King was different. He definitely wouldn't be able to block it. You actually killed Old Feng. Jiang Tian looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. Someone as powerful as Old Feng had been killed by Yi Chen just like that. This made him extremely shocked and numb. So be it. It'll be your turn soon. Yi Chen's tone was indifferent. You're dead for sure. Windstorm King is my master's heir emperor's right-hand man. Now that you've killed him, no one under the heavens can save you. Jiang Tian roared and flew toward the nearby passage. Stay here. Sun Tianling blocked Jiang Tian's path, while Morong Qingqing surrounded him from the side. Chapter 741. Piss off. Jiang Tian was extremely powerful. Before Yi Chen broke through, he would have to use all of his power to barely win. Therefore, although Sun Tianlang was a half-step king warrior, he was still forced back dozens of steps due to his lack of preparation. Fortunately, he did not let Jiang Tian escape. Losing this opportunity, Jiang Tian fell into a predicament. Although he was not afraid of Sun Tianlang and Morong Qingqing working together, and could maintain the situation for a while, it would be extremely difficult for him to break out of the encirclement. Yi Chen, you better let me go. My Gu family's anger is not something you can handle. Iron Hand King's heart sank. Since Yi Chen could kill Windstorm King, he could definitely kill him as well. It was only a matter of time. He could only place his hope on the Gu family's prestige and force Yi Chen to let him go. Do you think this is realistic? Yi Chen attacked Iron Hand King again and again, not giving him any chance to breathe. I am very important to the Gu family. Are you really not afraid of our Gu family's king warriors coming to kill you? Iron Hand King tried to act tough. Since I have already killed Windstorm King, I will not let you go. If he let any one of them go, then the news would be leaked. Yi Chen did not think that Iron Hand King would keep it a secret. Since he could not kill him himself, he would definitely leak the news to the heir emperor. The heir emperor was a titled emperor warrior, a king among kings. One Windstorm King might not be enough to make him come after him, but with Jiang Tian added in, it would be hard to say. Raising a genius was extremely hard, especially a natural-born genius like Jiang Tian, who was extremely rare. Once Yi Chen killed Jiang Tian, and the news was leaked, it would be hard to imagine how furious the heir emperor would be. Even Dragon King might not be able to stop him. Bastard, you madman! Killing the Windstorm King. You're bound to offend the heir emperor. If you kill me, the two kings of my Gu family won't let you off. Facing the pursuit of three kings, even if you flee to the Dragon God's celestial palace, it'll be useless. You're dead for sure. Iron Hand King roared as his hair stood up in anger. Boundless Zhen Yuan poured out of his body, forming a spiral shape that eventually condensed on his right fist. Immediately, his right fist was filled with a blinding light, as if it was made of metal. Carrying a tremendous force, it punched toward Yi Chen. Don't waste your efforts. Yi Chen slowly walked over. The crescent-shaped sword energy tore through the metal fist and slashed on Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan with unstoppable force. Bang! Iron Hand King shot out like a sharp arrow, crashing into the wall at the edge of the empty space. Kacha, the wall cracked, and Iron Hand King passed through it, quickly escaping. It turned out that Iron Hand King knew that he wasn't Yi Chen's opponent, so he borrowed Yi Chen's strength to instantly break through the wall and escape. And he had already succeeded halfway. Swish! How could Yi Chen let Iron Hand King escape? A flying sword landed under his feet, and he used Imperial Sword Flight to chase after Iron Hand King. In a blink of an eye, he had caught up. Break! Yi Chen once again slashed out with Waning Moon Slash. Pung! The sword energy was shattered, and Iron Hand King's figure staggered, his speed greatly decreasing. How could he be so fast? Iron Hand King was on the verge of despair. Your Zhen Yuan should be running out, right? Yi Chen wasn't afraid of Iron Hand King escaping at all. After breaking through to Late Sea of Soul Realm, using Imperial Sword Flight, had raised his speed to a whole new level. On the other hand, Iron Hand King had already swallowed several pellets, and the conversion of medicinal energy into Zhen Yuan was gradually unable to keep up with his consumption. 1 sword, 2 swords, 10 swords. Subsequently, Iron Hand King forcibly endured 10 swords from Yi Chen, each of which could kill anyone below peak half-step king realm. The reason Iron Hand King was able to survive until now was all because of the bronze armor. However, although the bronze armor was powerful, Iron Hand King's Zhen Yuan couldn't keep up. After enduring the 10th sword, the bronze runes on his protective Zhen Yuan shattered one after another. Die! Seizing the opportunity, Yi Chen slashed out again. Clang! Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan shattered, and sparks appeared on the bronze armor. As for himself, a bloody line appeared from his forehead to his chin. The bloody line gradually enlarged, and ultimately split into 2. Brain and blood interweaved together, looking extremely miserable. Pung! Iron Hand King fell to the ground, thoroughly dead. This pseudo-supreme great artifact is too abnormal. Fiercely letting out a mouthful of turbid qi, Yi Chen revealed a bitter smile. A pseudo-supreme great artifact could also be considered an extreme great artifact. However, it was an inferior product among extreme great artifacts, a failed product. However, even if it was a failed product, it was still extremely frightening. Without this pseudo-supreme great artifact, Iron Hand King's strength would have been a bit weaker than Wind Storm King. How could he have lasted until now? Removing the bronze armor on Iron Hand King's body and taking away his storage ring, Yi Chen turned around and returned to the open space. Pung 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 pung. Jiang Tian was still battling with Sun Tianlang and Morong Qingcheng. Explosions resounded one after another, and the berserk qi could be felt from far away. You can't kill me. Jiang Tian's battle strength was tyrannical. Even 1 against 2, he didn't fall into a disadvantageous position. This kid is simply a freak. Sun Tianlang sucked in a breath of cold air. In all these years he had only seen 2 freaks. One was Jiang Tian, and the other was Yi Chen. Those geniuses he had seen before were not even worth mentioning in front of these 2. No wonder he had always heard that this was a great era. Brother Sun Morong, leave him to me. Yi Chen rushed over. Yi Chen, you killed Iron Hand King? Sun Tianlang turned his head and saw Yi Chen. Inwardly, he let out a sigh of relief and retreated to the side with Morong Qingcheng. Yi Chen faintly nodded. There is no Iron Hand King in this world anymore. Good. Good kill. Kill him, and the mission will be complete. Sun Tianlang and Yi Chen were on the same boat right now. If the news leaked out, he would not have a good ending. But if they could kill all 3 of them, then there would be no problem. With so many people in the graveyard, who would know that they were the ones who killed the 3? Jiang Tian looked at Yi Chen calmly and said, Yi Chen, don't waste your energy. Although you can kill Elder Feng, you can't kill me. Oh. Yi Chen looked at Jiang Tian with a bit of surprise. Even at this moment, he was still talking like this. Either he was crazy, or he had something to rely on. Judging from Jiang Tian's expression, it might be the latter. Then, let me see how I can't kill you. Tapping his foot on the ground, Yi Chen stabbed his sword toward Jiang Tian's forehead. Can't dodge it. Yi Chen's spiritual sword was too fast. Jiang Tian could only watch as the Thunder Disaster sword pierced through his protective Zhen Yuan and stabbed toward his forehead. Shoo! His forehead cracked open, and Jiang Tian was about to die. Boom! All of a sudden, a beam of light shot out of Jiang Tian's body and condensed into a middle-aged man's shadow. His 2 fingers pinched the tip of the Thunder Disaster sword, causing the sword and Yi Chen to freeze in the surreal space, unable to move forward. Air Emperor! Yi Chen's pupils shrank as his scalp went numb. Taking out the Thunder Disaster sword, Yi Chen clenched his teeth and performed his most powerful sword attack, Waning Moon. The crescent-shaped sword power tore through the air and attacked out. Pung! The crescent-shaped sword power was shattered, and the Air Emperor's shadow did not move at all. Yi Chen, you and I will meet again. But that is if you can live until that day. Jiang Tian's body flashed once as if he had teleported, disappearing all of a sudden. All he left was a sentence that lingered in the air. Sun Tianlang had a bad look on his face. We are in big trouble now. The Air Emperor had left a trace of willpower in Jiang Tian's soul ocean. As long as it does not dissipate, even a top half-step king warrior would not be able to kill him. Plus, with the protection of willpower, his speed would increase to an unimaginable level. There would be no way for us to catch up. I miscalculated. Yi Chen stayed silent for a while before sighing. Putting a trace of willpower into someone else's soul ocean was extremely exhausting. Even a life-and-death realm warrior would not want to do it. Jiang Tian was a natural-born martial body, so it was natural for him to be favored by the Air Emperor. According to what had just happened, Yi Chen had roughly calculated that the Air Emperor's martial will had already reached the peak of rank 7, and this willpower contained a drop of the Air Emperor's Zhen Yuan. With the combination of the two, no one below the life-and-death realm would be able to break it. No wonder Jiang Tian was not afraid at all. With the Air Emperor's willpower in his soul ocean, it would not show up normally. But once he was about to die, the Air Emperor's willpower would help him escape. We do not need to worry too much. One Windstorm King might not be enough to make the Air Emperor fight us. Morong Qingqing said. Right. What kind of status does the Air Emperor have? He is a titled king warrior. If he attacks us, it would be too much. Sun Tianlang comforted himself. Yi Chen nodded. The Air Emperor will not attack us personally, but he will not let us go either. Perhaps he will use some other methods. We can only take it one step at a time. Now that the Air Emperor had come personally, Yi Chen had no choice but to accept his fate. After all, the only person who could stop the Air Emperor in the whole True Spirit continent was probably Su King. Dragon King and Xianhou were both slightly weaker. Moreover, he could not stay under the protection of Xianhou and Dragon King all the time. Pausing for a while, Yi Chen continued. Besides the Air Emperor, we still have to be on guard against the Gu family's revenge. Brother Sun, this time, you better find a place to hide, or leave the True Spirit continent. I have dragged you into this. Letting out a breath, Sun Tianlang said. It has nothing to do with you. It was my own choice. Perhaps this is fate. Don't worry, I won't die that easily. At worst, I'll do as you said, and leave the True Spirit continent for the outer ocean. The world is vast, and there will be a place for me to stand. I'm afraid I'll also have to leave the True Spirit continent, Yi Chen thought inwardly. Before, nobody knew that he had killed Ghostwood King, Gopher King, and Shadow Chasing King. But now he had killed Windstorm King and Iron Hand King, which would inevitably arouse suspicions. This way, not only would the Air Emperor and the Gu family look for him, the powers behind Ghostwood King and Gopher King, as well as the Shadow Sect behind Shadow Chasing King, would not let him off. Offending so many powers at once, Yi Chen's future days would not be good. We'll talk about other things later. Right now let's check the valuables. Although Sun Tianlang had not contributed much in killing Windstorm King and Iron Hand King, they had staked their lives to stand on the same side as Yi Chen. Not giving them a share of the valuables would be inexcusable. After leaving the Forbidden Area, Sun Tianlang would inevitably have to leave the True Spirit continent. A bit more valuables would make their lives a bit better. Sun Tianlang said, I didn't contribute much. You only need to give me some spirit stones. Chapter 742. Windstorm King and Iron Hand King's storage rings didn't have any miscellaneous items, mainly upper-grade spirit stones, some spirit grasses, precious gems, and crystals. Although there were some other extremely valuable treasures, they weren't many and only occupied a corner of the ring. In the end, there were 5 million upper-grade spirit stones, over 100 spirit grasses of various grades, and more than 5,000 upper-grade gems and crystals. The most valuable one was 1,000 supreme-grade spirit stones. Splitting evenly, Yi Chen gave Sun Tianlang more than 1,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones and 330 supreme-grade spirit stones. The same went for Murong Qingcheng. I can actually get 330 supreme-grade spirit stones. Sun Tianlong's gloomy face revealed a smile. Half-step kings were in between Sea of Soul Realm and Life and Death Realm. Using upper-grade spirit stones and supreme-grade spirit stones could be used for cultivation. Using upper-grade spirit stones would make one's progress extremely slow, but using supreme-grade spirit stones would make one's progress several times faster. Before this, Sun Tianlang only had 50 supreme-grade spirit stones, which he was reluctant to use for cultivation. In comparison, 1,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones didn't attract much attention. Sun Tianlong's harvest wasn't small, but Yi Chen's harvest was something he couldn't compare to. Ghostwood King, Gopher King, and Shadow Chasing King contributed a total of 6 million upper-grade spirit stones and 800 supreme-grade spirit stones. Adding the 1,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones and 330 supreme-grade spirit stones, Yi Chen's harvest this time was 7,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones and 1,200 supreme-grade spirit stones. Before entering the Forbidden Area, Yi Chen's upper-grade spirit stones were even more than a half-step king's. On his way up, he had killed innumerable experts, and the wealth he had obtained was naturally unimaginable. Adding this harvest, Yi Chen's upper-grade spirit stones astonishingly crossed the 20 million range, reaching a huge amount of 21 million. It was simply shocking. Of course, the most valuable harvest this time was not the huge amount of upper-grade spirit stones, or the 1,000 supreme-grade spirit stones, but a pseudo-supreme-grade defensive artifact. If pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were sold in the market, then 20 million upper-grade spirit stones would definitely be enough to buy it. The key was that pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were priceless and could not be bought even if one had spirit stones. It should be known that normal Life and Death Kings didn't even have a pseudo-supreme-grade artifact and used a semi-supreme-grade artifact. The Gu family of the East Royal City was one of the oldest families, so it was understandable for them to have a pseudo-supreme-grade artifact. However, Qing Lu had a pseudo-supreme-grade attacking artifact, which should be out of luck. She might have found it in some rank 5, or even rank 4 ruins. Murong Qingqing then reminded Yi Chen, that armor has the soul mark of the Iron Hand King. If we do not erase it, it might be sensed by the Gu family. You're right. Yi Chen nodded and said to the two, you guys guard the surroundings for me. The Iron Hand King is a half-step king, and his soul is slowly changing. His soul mark will not be that easy to erase. Yi Chen's soul was a bit strange, 5 times more powerful than the same level Seas of Soul's Realm Master level warriors. In terms of quality, it was beyond half-step kings, and was equivalent to normal Life and Death Kings. However, half-step King's soul had a soul membrane, but his did not. Yi Chen thought about it, and felt that the soul membrane should be a special effect of the late-stage soul. If he wanted to erase the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, he would have to spend some effort. Don't worry, leave this place to us. Sun Tianlang put away a large amount of soul stones, his expression serious. If he did not erase the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, this armor would be a hot potato. Who knew when it would cause trouble? After all, once the graveyard of the 4 Extreme Emperor opened, the Gu family's king would come for sure. Taking out the armor, Yi Chen sucked in a deep breath and poured his powerful soul power into it, searching for the soul mark of the Iron Hand King. Generally speaking, the core of a treasure's formation was the best place to imprint a soul imprint. It wasn't impossible to imprint a soul imprint in other places, but it would make it difficult to control the treasure, and there would be some barriers. Just as Yi Chun had expected, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King was imprinted at the core of the array. Facing the invasion of Yi Chun's soul power, the soul mark struggled with all its strength, even using the energy of the armor itself to attack Yi Chun's soul power. Scatter! How powerful was Yi Chun's soul power? It was comparable to ordinary life and death kings. With a shake of his soul power, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, that had just been mobilized, immediately dissipated, unable to affect Yi Chun in the slightest. Not only that, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King also began to waver. Refine. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Chun's soul power rushed into the core of the array and clashed with the soul mark of the Iron Hand King. If Yi Chun's soul was only an ordinary soul, he would not be able to do anything to the soul mark of the Iron Hand King within a short period of time. It would take him at least a month, perhaps even longer. However, Yi Chun was a soul genius, and the quantity and quality of his soul power were much higher than the Iron Hand King's. Moreover, it was only a soul mark, so how could it compete with Yi Chun's soul? After half the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King dimmed, and strands of soul mist drifted in the air. Although this soul mark had no intelligence, it possessed the most basic of instincts. The instant it was about to be erased, it let out a soul cry and vanished like smoke in thin air. After losing the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, Yi Chun easily left his soul mark at the core of the array. Moreover, Yi Chun's soul mark was much stronger than the Iron Hand King's. Even a half-step king would need several months to erase it. After successfully leaving his soul mark, Yi Chun poured his Zhen Yuan into the armor. Immediately, the armor emitted an ancient bronze radiance, and bronze runes undulated within the radiance. Success! Sun Tianlang and Morong Qingqing looked over. Yes. Yi Chun nodded. Sun Tianlang glanced at Yi Chun in astonishment. He thought that Yi Chun would need at least 2 hours to erase the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, and this was because he knew that Yi Chun was not an ordinary person. If it were anyone else, it would take at least a month. Someone's coming. Morong Qingqing kept her innate demonic eyes open. Everything within 3,000 meters was within her line of sight. Without putting on the armor, Yi Chun put it away and asked, "Who is it?" "It's Thunder Spirit King." Morong Qingqing frowned. "Thunder Spirit King? We'd better leave first." Yi Chun waved the Thunder Disaster Sword, turning Windstorm King and Iron Hand King's corpses into nothingness. His figure flickered, and he, along with Sun Tianlang and Morong Qingqing, headed toward one of the passages at the edge of the open space. Thunder Spirit King was one of the strongest half-step kings. Under Life and Death Realm, he was invincible. Yi Chun didn't want to have too much contact with him. After all, who knew if he had any relationship with Windstorm King or Iron Hand King? Swish! As soon as Yi Chun and the other two left, Thunder Spirit King's figure appeared in the empty space. A great battle took place here? Thunder Spirit King's gaze swept the surroundings. The sword scars on the ground, and the holes in the walls were telling him that a great battle had taken place here. Both sides had high strength, and there was even a peak half-step king, who could cause such a shocking destruction. Interesting. Among those who had entered the graveyard, apart from himself, there was only one peak half-step king, Punishment King. Although Windstorm King's strength was close to Punishment King's, it was still a bit lacking. He could barely be considered a peak half-step king. Apart from Void-Shattering Finger, only White Sheep King and Sky Scorpio King were taught other space profound martial skills. Hopefully, I'll be able to reap some benefits in White Sheep King's graveyard. Thunder Spirit King's goal was only space profound martial skills. He didn't care about anything else. Outside Grey Wolf King's graveyard, people arrived from time to time. Some came from the conveyor gate, while others came from the caves. The number of people kept increasing. In one day, there were at least 50 to 60 people. On the second day, the number increased to 70. Everyone says that the closer you get to the graveyard, the more dangerous it gets. How come we didn't encounter any danger along the way? A yellow-robed old man asked curiously. Perhaps it's just a rumor. I don't think so. I'm afraid there's something else going on. Who cares about it? Grey Wolf King's graveyard's gate is already open. Let's go in. Shwa shwa shwa, like locusts, numerous half-step kings and peak masters entered Grey Wolf King's graveyard. Shwa. After a while, a green light flickered over. As they approached Grey Wolf King's graveyard, the green light revealed its true form. It was an extremely aged white-haired old man with a haggard face. The white-haired old man's aura was extremely mixed. There was the vigorous life force of a tree, but also the gloomy death chi. The two auras intertwined together, creating a very strange scene. My lifespan is almost up. If I can't reap some benefits, I'm afraid I won't be far from death. The white-haired old man sized up Grey Wolf King's graveyard before his figure flickered inside. Inside Firebird King's graveyard, 4 inhuman figures flickered. If Yi Chen's group saw these 4 figures, they would definitely feel their blood run cold. These 4 figures were none other than the Umbra Ghost Bat King, the Undying Swamp King, and the 2 predators' descendants. It turned out that after Yi Chen's group entered the graveyard, these 4 vicious creatures had hunted enough half-step king's flesh and were preparing to enter the graveyard to try their luck. They didn't want to guard the graveyard for the rest of their lives. The world outside the Forbidden Zone was the world they yearned for. And it was precisely because they had left their original location and entered the graveyard that the people behind them didn't encounter any danger. My strength has already recovered to its peak. No one can kill me anymore. The Umbra Ghost Bat King was in high spirits. His strength was above the Swamp King and the Predator's descendants. This group was also led by him. Relying on this strength, he could obtain a lot of treasures and then borrow the strength of others to leave the Forbidden Zone. If he had the opportunity, he might even become a Demon King. Chapter 743. Firebird King's graveyard was extremely vast, and the open space was only the center. There was still half a way to reach White Sheep King's graveyard. The open space at the center was already hot enough, and the fiery chi would condense into various fire birds from time to time to attack outsiders. However, as they passed through the open space, Yi Chen discovered that the temperature was still rising from 1,000 degrees to 2,000 degrees. The previous temperature could already melt ordinary steel. The temperature here can more or less melt low-grade metals. Metals also had grades. Low-grade metals could be used to forge low-grade artifacts and were extremely hard. Metals below low grade could only be used to forge ordinary weapons. Morong Qingqing said, "There's lava ahead, and there's a passage leading down." Lava. No wonder. Everything on True Spirit Continent couldn't be compared to the things of Yi Chen's world. For example, the titanium alloy of Yi Chen's world was only an ordinary precious metal in this world, not even comparable to low-grade metals. Moreover, the lava of the 2 places couldn't be compared either. The temperature of True Spirit Continent's lava could easily reach several thousand degrees, and the temperature would also vary according to the environment. In a short while, the 3 arrived at the periphery of the lava. This place was the same as the empty space in the center of the cemetery. It was also a large empty space, but this empty space was filled with magma and red jade-like stones. In the center of the magma, there was a staircase leading downwards. The temperature there was much higher than the surrounding temperature. It seemed that the lower one went, the higher the temperature. "Come, let's go in." Yi Chen disregarded the high temperature and took a step forward, arriving at the top of the stairs. Swish, swish. Morong Qingqing and Sun Tianlang followed behind. Raising his protective Zhen Yuan, Yi Chen faintly sucked in a breath of air. His feet landed on the stairs, and he walked down. Creak creak. Although the stairs didn't conduct heat, the surface temperature was still quite high. When the protective Zhen Yuan came in contact with it, it emitted a faint burning sound and smoke. Soon, the 3 arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Yi Chen, and the other 2 had just gotten down when they heard someone calling out to them. They turned their heads and saw Qing Lu and Yin Fengfeng. Not far away from them, there were even more people who were standing in a circle. In the middle was a 100-meter radius lava lake. The color of the lava was not the normal red or yellow, but blood red. It was extremely pure, without any impurities. In the center of the magma lake, There was a circle of orange-yellow light coming from the bottom. An incomparably majestic energy wave swept out in all directions, causing people to hold their breaths. Senior. Yi Chun and the other two walked over. Qing Lu smiled. As long as you guys are fine. What's the situation here? Yi Chun asked. Yan Fengfeng pointed at an orange-yellow halo at the bottom of the lake and said, there is a half-step extreme-grade Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit at the bottom of the lake. Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit? This was the first time Yi Chun had heard of it. What? Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit? Sun Tianlang cried out in shock. Yi Chun looked at Sun Tianlang. Brother Sun, you know about the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit? Sun Tianlang said. The Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit above 10,000 years old is a top-grade spirit fruit. Consuming one will allow a monarch's spirit body to rise by one level. Normally, both monarchs and monarchs have 5th-grade spirit bodies. Consuming a Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit will allow them to rise to the 6th grade. The higher the cultivation, the greater the increase. 8,000 years ago, there was a body-tempering monarch whose spirit body had reached the 6th grade. Coincidentally, he found a 50,000-year-old Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit, which allowed his spirit body to rise to the 8th grade. He instantly became an undefeatable monarch. Even monarchs were no match for him. A 50,000 years old Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit can increase one's spirit body by 2 ranks, and from rank 6 to rank 8. Yi Chun was quite shocked. The higher one's spirit body was, the harder it would be to increase. Rank 5 spirit body was the standard of life and death kings. Even titled monarchs could only reach rank 5 spirit body. If it was a king who focused on body refining, they could reach rank 6. The gap between rank 6 and rank 5 was huge, not to mention rank 8 and rank 5. It was like heaven and earth, and it would be easy for a king to sweep the whole world. Sun Tianlang continued. Of course, a Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit that has matured for 10,000 years and above is a rare occurrence. One that has matured for 50,000 years and above has only appeared once in history. After all, the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit is not an ordinary spirit herb that can easily reach 10,000 years and above. Qing Lu nodded. This Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit is not more than 5,000 years old. It is impossible for it to increase our spirit body by 1 rank, but half a rank should not be a problem. If it is at the peak of rank 4, then reaching rank 5 is almost certain. Rank 5 spirit body was the king's spirit body. Most of the people here have rank 4 spirit body. I'm afraid this Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit will make everyone go crazy. Yi Chun used his soul eye and saw that there was a 1-meter-tall purple-red tree under the lava. On top of the tree, there was a purple fruit, and there was a red light flashing on the surface of the fruit from time to time. Qing Lu said, although there are a lot of people here, only a few have the chance to get the fruit, such as Punishment King, Ice Spear King, Mochi Tiger, Forest King and Armored King. Wait until the fruit ripens, I will go down alone. You guys stay up here. She still did not know that Yi Chun's power had reached a horrifying level. Even Windstorm King and Iron Hand King had died in his hands. But she could not be blamed for not having a good eyesight. Who would know that Yi Chun had only broken through a small realm, and his power had increased by several folds. Senior, I will go down with you later. Yi Chun was a bit tempted by the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. Who would not want to strengthen their spirit body? You will go down with me? Qing Lu's brows creased as she looked at Yi Chun. Morong Qingqing explained in place of Yi Chun. Senior, Yi Chun has already broken through to late Sea of Soul Realm. His strength is very powerful. She did not say that Yi Chun had killed Windstorm King and Iron Hand King, as it was not the right time yet. Right, Yi Chun's strength will certainly surprise you. Sun Tianlong's tone was certain. Oh, in that case you must be extremely careful. Qing Lu was still not convinced. However, Yi Chun's strength was indeed not weak before. Now that his cultivation base had reached late Sea of Soul Realm, his improvement should not be small. Right, Senior? This Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit's effect is so powerful. The Fire Spirit Tree should be able to be cultivated, right? There was only one Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. If he could obtain the tree, he would be able to grow more sky demon fire spirit fruits in the future. Qing Lu smiled bitterly. It would be great if that was the case. The sky demon fire spirit tree is very strange. After producing a sky demon fire spirit fruit, it will die. Some trees will bear fruit in 1,000 years, some in 5,000 years, and some in 10,000 years. There is no clear pattern, and one can only rely on luck. Therefore, the sky demon fire spirit fruit is the peak among the same grade spirit fruits. I see. Yi Chen still planned to obtain the sky demon fire spirit tree. This kind of spirit plant could only be found by luck. Buzz! Suddenly, ripples appeared in the center of the lava lake, spreading toward the edge. At the same time, an extremely hot chi current spread out. So hot! The experts surrounding the magma lake retreated one after another, leaving only a few of the most powerful people behind. The temperature of this chi current is probably above 5,000 degrees. The temperature was too high, and Yi Chen could no longer estimate it. After all, he did not have a temperature measuring device. He could only make a rough estimate based on his own feelings. Buzz! Buzz! The waves in the magma lake became more and more numerous. In the end, huge bubbles emerged on the surface of the magma lake one after another. These bubbles were pure gold in color. After leaving the magma lake, they suddenly burst, releasing an even hotter chi flow. Even Yi Chen's body was covered in sweat. Although he was powerful, his cultivation base was only at late sea of Soul Realm, which couldn't compare to half-step kings. The sky demon fire spirit fruit has matured. Qing Lu's eyes brightened. Obviously, the others had also guessed that the fruit had matured as well. Otherwise, there would not be such a weird phenomenon. All of a sudden, everyone around the lava lake started to move, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. But strangely, no one made the first move. They all seemed to be worried. Fortune comes from danger. Let's do it. A half-step king warrior flashed his body and jumped toward the lava lake. Seeing that, the people around him hesitated a bit, but did not stop him. Qing Lu said to Yi Chen, "The lava lake is extremely dangerous. The first one to go down will have to bear the most danger. If he is not careful, he will be killed. Let's wait." Yeah. Yi Chen nodded. The first one to go down was indeed the most dangerous. Even if he could get the fruit, he would be the target of everyone else. Perhaps this half-step king warrior thought that he was quite powerful and wanted to give it a try. If he succeeded, his spirit body would reach rank 5 soon. Plop! Lava splashed everywhere as this half-step king warrior jumped into the lava lake. Yi Chen used his soul eye and observed carefully. At the bottom of the lake, apart from the boiling magma, there were also countless scorching chi currents. These surging chi currents formed bubbles on the surface. The half-step king unceasingly evaded the chi currents, gradually approaching the fruit. When he was less than 50 meters away from the sky fiend fire spirit fruit tree, a golden stream of air suddenly shot up and swept past. A shocking scene occurred. The half-step king didn't even have the time to let out a scream before his entire body was burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Only his semi-extreme grade artifact remained, sinking into the depths of the lava lake. This gold chi flow is very scary. Yi Chen's pupil shrunk. Outside, he could not feel the temperature of the gold chi flow, but if a half-step king warrior could not handle it, it was obvious that the temperature was horrifying. With the first one dead, the rest of the people started to hesitate even more. They looked at each other, knowing that they would not give up on the fruit. But before that, they had to figure out the danger under the lava lake first. Therefore, they all hoped that someone else would go down first. Of course, the condition was that the one who went down was not too powerful. If he was too powerful, then once he got the fruit, there would be no hope left for them. Chapter 744. The Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit is indeed ripe. I wonder who will be the second to go down. Yi Chen noticed that the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit, at the bottom of the lava lake, had turned from purple to orange. Its entire body was emitting an orange glow. The purplish-red tree and the orange fruit were exceptionally eye-catching. If Yi Chen were a half-step king, he would definitely be the second one to go down. However, his cultivation base was only at late sea of Soul Realm, and his protective Zhen Yuan was not that powerful. Moreover, he couldn't immediately expose his bronze armor. Therefore, going down recklessly would put his life in danger. Only after understanding the situation of the magma lake would he make his move. Since everyone is so cautious, I'll go first. I hope you won't regret it. The great elder of the Void Gate, the Armored King, burst into laughter. His silhouette flickered and turned into a streak of yellow light, shooting towards the magma lake. Puff! Magma splashed up from the surface of the magma lake as the Armored King dived in. It's the Armored King! Everyone's expression changed. Armored King was very powerful, at most a bit weaker than Punishment King. Moreover, Armored King's defense was very high. Even one of the strongest half-step kings, Thunder Spirit King, couldn't compare. Although that golden chi flow could burn a half-step king into ashes, it might not be able to do anything to Armored King. Everyone was waiting. Once they confirmed that the Armored King could resist the golden chi flow, they would go down and fight for the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit. The density of the magma was very high, and there were many undercurrents, causing the Armored King's diving speed to be very slow. Apart from this, the Armored King did not dare to go too fast. He was not sure if he could resist the golden currents. If necessary, he would have to dodge. When the Armored King was only 50 to 60 meters away from the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit, a golden stream appeared. In a flash, it arrived in front of the Armored King. So fast, the Armored King was startled, and an earthen yellow radiance surged from his body, condensing into a 10-meter-tall black mountain. When the golden chi came into contact with it, a blinding light burst out, and the black mountain rapidly shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, like melted cheese. Seizing this opportunity, the Armored King twisted his body and dodged the golden airflow, continuing to dive deeper. He blocked it. Everyone was overjoyed, but then they were alarmed. The Armored Monarch could resist the golden chi flow for a short period of time. They absolutely could not allow him to snatch the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Let's go! Qing Lu yelled with a low voice, her tone decisive. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Chun and Qing Lu almost flew out at the same time. Within a second, they arrived above the lava lake, flashed and jumped down. Whoosh! Whoosh! Swoosh! Not only Yi Chun and Qing Lu, the others had also made their move. Others like Punish King, Guanglin King, Machi Tiger, Ice Spear King, and dozens of other Demi-King warriors all jumped into the lava lake, their speed exploding to the extreme. At this moment, it was all about speed. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 people plunged into the magma lake at the same time, and dived into the bottom of the magma lake. The closer he got to the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, the more the golden air currents appeared. At this time, the Armored King's speed wasn't even 1,000th of his usual speed. He simply didn't dare to face so many golden air currents. He could only swim like a fish, blocking the golden air currents for a moment, taking the opportunity to dodge, and then continuing to approach. Seeing that the Armored King was less than 20 meters away from the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, Punishment King, who was the strongest among them, decisively made his move. His first move was the Punishment Kill, that had almost killed Yi Chun and the rest. Numerous chains extended out, wrapping around the Armored King's limbs. Armored King's strength was only slightly weaker than Punishment King. A black mountain peak condensed outside his body once again. The chains clashed with it, letting out a metal clashing sound. However, the next blade light sent the Armored King flying to the side, colliding with a golden chi flow. Chi. The black mountain peak rapidly shrunk as Armored King hurriedly escaped from the range of the golden chi flow. Punishment King, you dare to attack me? Armored King roared. Why wouldn't I dare? Punishment King snorted. With Punishment King taking the lead, the others became bolder. Once Armored King approached the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, they would immediately attack. This made Armored King extremely annoyed, but helpless. Soon, everyone arrived in the vicinity of the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Dozens of people dodged the sudden golden chi flow, while guarding against other people's sneak attacks. Although the golden chi flow's temperature was high, as long as one didn't get too close to the fruit, the frequency of its appearance wouldn't be high. Moreover, Those who came down were all relatively powerful half-step kings. Even if they were burned by the golden chi flow, they would be able to dodge at the crucial moment. Hee, there's only one sky fiend fire spirit fruit, but there are dozens of us here. I'm afraid it won't be easy to divide it. Punishment King's gaze swept around and chuckled. Ice Spear King said with a cold tone, "There are too many people. It's better if fewer go." After saying these words, he looked at a few weaker half-step kings with ill intentions, as well as the only one who wasn't a half-step king, Yi Chen. "Be careful later. There might be a fight." Qing Lu transmitted her Zhen Yuan to Yi Chen. "Senior, don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Yi Chen could sense that the whole lava lake was enveloped in a layer of restriction, making it impossible to concentrate energy, greatly reducing the offensive power. Moreover, the density of the lava lake was also very high. At least half of the offensive power would be wasted on the transmission. In this way, the strength everyone could display at the bottom of the lava lake wouldn't be enough to break through the defense. The only thing they had to be wary of was the golden chi flow. Once they were hit, they wouldn't be able to control their body, and if they were careless and bumped into the golden chi flow, it wouldn't bode well for them. Die. Among the crowd, the first to suffer was a skinny half-step king. He was the first to suffer Forest King's attack. His body tilted and was about to bump into a golden chi flow. At the crucial moment, he twisted his body and forcefully dodged. However, it was not only Forest King who was attacking him, but Machi who as well. No. This person's eyes were filled with fear as he was engulfed by the golden chi flow and turned into ashes. Go. Seeing this, two half-step kings felt that their strength wasn't enough and rushed up. They didn't want to lose their lives here. They didn't fear death, but there were too many experts down there. They couldn't fight over the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. With one dead and two gone, there were still 10 people down there. "Kid, this is not a place for you to stay." Ice Spear King suddenly attacked Yi Chen with his spear, which was unexpected. This guy. Among the crowd, Yi Chen's defense was the lowest. Attacking other half-step kings wouldn't be able to break through their defenses. However, attacking Yi Chen would still be able to break through. Moreover, even if it didn't, Yi Chen would lose control of his body and crash into the golden chi flow. Get lost. Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster sword, and a dark golden ripple greeted the incoming attack. Rumble. Even with the protection of the restriction, the magma lake exploded, and the magma surged. What? Ice Spear King had only used 50 to 60% of his power in this attack. He thought that 50 to 60% would be enough to send Yi Chen flying. However, he was wrong. The one who was sent flying was himself. Under his carelessness, he simply couldn't react in time. What was even more unfortunate was that behind the Ice Spear King, two golden streams of air rushed up and brushed past the Ice Spear King's body. Pung! Ice Spear King's body lit up. First, a bright light shot out from his 7 orifices. Then his body collapsed and fused with the magma. The long spear in his hand and the armor on his body gradually sunk down. Yi Chen was stunned. He was only counterattacking just now and had never thought of killing Ice Spear King. In his opinion, Ice Spear King should be able to resist. However, he didn't expect that Ice Spear King would only use 50 to 60% of his power. Caught off guard, he died. Sigh, I've offended another ice pavilion. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. Kid, you're courting death. Everyone was shocked by Yi Chen's strength. Even if Ice Spear King was careless, he was still not a normal half-step king. Who would have thought that under one move, it would be him who died? As soon as Ice Spear King died, Forest King and Machi's eyes flickered with an ominous light, as they each launched an attack at Yi Chen. You dare! Qing Lu held the sky hammer in her hand and attacked at the two. What happened next made everyone speechless. Forest King and Machi Tiger did not expect Qing Lu to have a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. They immediately followed Ice Spear King's footsteps and were blown away by the hammer power before being burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Damn! It's a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. Punishment King's eyebrow twitched. Originally, there were 10 people, but now 3 had died, leaving only 7. Damn it! We can't stay here at all. Let's go. The continuous deaths had chilled the others' hearts. They would rather fight outside of the magma lake than under it. With a little bit of carelessness, they would be burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Among everyone, only Armored King could resist the golden chi flow for a short period of time. In the end, 4 people were left at the bottom of the magma lake. They were Qing Lu, Yi Chun, Armored King and Punishment King. The others were either dead or had escaped. Mysterious King, I did not expect you to have a pseudo-extreme rank weapon, but you have killed Forest King and Machi Tiger. Lin family and Sky Tiger race will not let you go. Punishment King was not afraid of Qing Lu. He was a top half-step king warrior. Even if Qing Lu had a pseudo-extreme rank weapon, it would still be impossible for her to beat him. Qing Lu said, "Life and death are decided by fate. If you do not want to die, you should just hide at home." Although it would be troublesome to offend Lin family and Sky Tiger race, he could not care about that right now. He could only blame them for being careless. Punishment King laughed. "You are Xuanho's master. Lin family and Sky Tiger race might not be able to do anything to you, but for this brat, he might not be able to make it out alive. The one from the ice pavilion is the most protective." He still did not know that Yi Chun had not only offended the ice pavilion, but also the Air Emperor, the Shadow Martial School, and the Gu family. Therefore, for Yi Chun there were too many troubles. One more or one less did not matter anymore. He would just have to take it one step at a time. Dying here is their fate. If the king warriors behind them are ready to attack, my disciple Qing Xian and Dragon King will not just watch. As Xianhou and Yin Qingshuan's master, how could Qing Lu not know Xuanho's plan? She knew that Qing Xian and Dragon King had made up their minds to protect Yi Chun. Whoever dared to touch Yi Chun would be touching them as well. Dragon King? I wonder if he is still alive or not. Armored King sneered. Chapter 745. The Dragon King's closed-door training was something everyone knew. If the Dragon King was close to the end of his life, then everyone would give him face. After all, no one knew how powerful he really was. They only knew that he was the oldest human king warrior, over 1,000 years old. It was also said that in terms of cultivation, even titled king warriors would not be able to compete with him. Such a powerful Dragon King would naturally be feared by everyone. Unfortunately, this was the second time the Dragon King had been in closed-door training. You too. In order to avoid hurting the relationship, why don't you guys leave the lava lake first? Yi Chun put the Ice Spear King thing to the back of his head and smiled. Punishment King's expression turned cold. Brat, are you joking? Don't think that just because you killed the Ice Spear King, you have the right to talk in front of us. Armored King looked at Yi Chun coldly. Ice Spear King's death couldn't be attributed to Yi Chun's strength surpassing Ice Spear King's. It was mainly due to Ice Spear King's own carelessness. This was the magma lake, and if he couldn't control his own body he would have died. If he were outside, even if Ice Spear King was careless, he wouldn't have died a miserable death. Yi Chun said, "If I'm careless and you die miserably here, I'm afraid that the Void Emperor and Prison King behind you won't let me off. You retreat and preserve your lives, while we obtain the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Isn't that a win-win situation?" You really dare to say it out loud. Punishment King squinted his eyes, his killing intent rising. Punishment King, your opponent is me. Qing Lu looked at Yi Chun strangely. Yi Chun was not the kind of person to talk big. Could it be that his power had really improved to such a shocking level? Qing Lu Sr., leave him to me. You go take on the Armored King. With the Sky Hammer, Qing Lu might be able to suppress Punishment King for a short period of time. But once she used up too much Jin Yuan, she would be in danger. And Yi Chun would rather face Punishment King. His defense was too high, and Yi Chun might not be able to do anything to him. Can you do it? Qing Lu obviously did not want to fight with Punishment King, but she was more worried about Yi Chun. It's too late. Punishment King did not have the leisure to watch the other side fight. True Yuan surged inside his body, as he quickly formed a seal with both hands. In an instant, 5 chains wrapped around Yi Chun's limbs and neck at lightning speed. Punishment Martial Art Punishment. Among the peak half-step kings of True Spirit Continent, Punishment King was certainly the most famous. His punishing martial skills were too strange. Each of his moves and styles seemed to be carrying out torture, and the slightest carelessness could lead to decapitation. Therefore, some peak half-step kings whose strength was not weaker than Punishment King didn't dare to provoke him, giving him some face. Walala! The speed at which the 5 chains descended was too fast. Even at the bottom of the magma lake, they didn't slow down this much. They were about to wrap around Yi Chen's body. Break! Floating in the lava lake, Yi Chen held the Thunder Disaster Sword and waved it in the air. Clang, 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 clang. The speed at which the chains descended was fast, but Yi Chen's sword speed was even faster. It was almost 1/10 of a blink of an eye, and the 5 chains had been shattered into pieces. It was unknown how many times they had been attacked. The chains were only the prelude. What followed was a blade light, which looked like an executioner's blade. Unfortunately, it could not escape from Yi Chen's eyes. Dang! The blade light was blown away by Yi Chen's casual sword attack. Right now, the punishment kill that had almost killed Yi Chen, and the other 4 had been broken completely. It did not hurt Yi Chen at all. Yi Chen he? Qing Lu was shocked. Yi Chen's opponent was Punishment King, one of the top half-step king warriors of True Spirit Continent. His punishment martial art had killed countless people, especially this punishment kill, which was one of his ace attacks. It had been tried and tested many times, but it had been broken by Yi Chen with only a couple of sword attacks. This brat! How is this possible? Qing Lu was shocked, but the Shield King was even more shocked. He had always thought of Yi Chen as one of the young warriors, and thought that he would still need a couple of years before he could make a name for himself among the half-step king warriors. So, he had never thought of him as someone on the same level. Right now, his mind was in a mess. The most shocked one would be the Punishment King. No one would be able to surpass him in terms of understanding his ace attacks. Although those chains were only made of Zhen Yuan, they contained 70% of the gold profound. And that blade light that came after was the embodiment of the gold profound. Yi Chen had broken it with only a couple of sword attacks. Alright, take another attack of mine. The Punishment King yelled. His rich Zhen Yuan pushed the lava to the side, forming a 12 meters wide hollow ball. Inside the hollow ball, the Punishment King's hair danced in the air, as he formed a spell with both of his hands at an extreme speed. He had formed 8 spells in a row, which only took 1/5 of a blink of an eye. Boom! The lava lake exploded, and a massive platform rose up. On the platform, a huge amount of gold element Zhen Yuan had formed into a massive blade, hanging high in the air. Yi Chen and Qing Lu were both on the platform. It was also made of Zhen Yuan, which was extremely hard and had a power field. Being inside it, one would be restricted and would not be able to use their speed. This is one of the Punishment King's ace attacks. The Shield King let out a breath. The strange thing about punishment martial arts was that it was very hard to avoid. The Punishment King could lock people down and then kill them. The beheading blade could decrease the opponent's speed drastically, and the huge blade hanging in the air was like the executioner's blade. It could lock onto the target, and with one blade attack, no matter how famous the target was, it would be cut in half. Indeed strange. Yi Chen could feel that he had been restricted by a power field, and that blade above him had already locked onto him. The hair on the back of his neck stood up. It was his body's instinct to sense danger. Fall! The Punishment King yelled. Shoo! The blade hanging in the air suddenly fell down, its blade light as fast as a shadow. Dang! Yi Chen raised his Thunder Disaster Sword up high, blocking the blade. It is a bit more powerful than the last blade light, but it is still limited. According to the power that came from the Thunder Disaster Sword, Yi Chen could guess the attacking power of the blade. Huh! Beheading blade. If the head does not fall on the ground, it will not stop until death. The Punishment King controlled the blade with his right hand, and another blade light fell down. Dang! 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 The sound of metal clashing could be heard continuously. No wonder the Punishment King is so confident. It turns out that this blade is just like the flying sword. It can attack continuously, and each attack is more powerful than the previous one. It can make people tired out, and as long as they are tired, the blade will take advantage of it, and the head will fall on the ground. Yi Chen praised inwardly. Punishment King's reputation was not undeserved, but genuine, without the slightest bit of exaggeration. Unfortunately, he was facing Yi Chen. No matter how fast the blade was, it could not be faster than Yi Chen's spiritual sword. In an instant, Yi Chen could unleash hundreds of sword strikes. The speed of the blade paled in comparison. Punishment King, your beheading blade is not much. Now take one of my moves. Once again blocking the blade, Yi Chen suddenly shot a crescent moon sword energy at the Punishment King. The Punishment King was a peak half-step king, so Thunder Devour and Gold Ripple were useless. Thus he directly used his strongest sword move. Although the crescent moon sword energy seemed similar to the crescent moon sword chi, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. This crescent moon sword energy circulated unceasingly and condensed together. As soon as it was slashed out, the lava in front of it disappeared. Danger! The Punishment King did not expect that Yi Chen would have the time to counterattack while blocking, obstructing all prosperity prison gate. The Punishment King could no longer control the beheading blade. His hands joined together and separated, and a prison gate suffused with black chi appeared in front of him. The prison gate seemed as if it had not been repaired for a long time. With a loud rumble, it closed, trapping the Punishment King inside. Everything outside had nothing to do with him. Clang! The crescent moon sword energy slashed at the prison gate, only cutting a few iron bars. Powerful. It's a fusion profound martial skill. It should be metal profound and dark profound. Yi Chen's eyes squinted. He could tell that it was impossible for the Punishment King to create such a powerful fusion profound martial art. It should have been created by the Hellgate sect master, the Hell King. The profoundness contained in this move was too profound. It was not a simple fusion of two profoundness, but it had some kind of special demonic power. Your dark profound comprehension is too low. Let's see how many strikes you can block. Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster sword, and another crescent moon sword energy flew out, slashing at the prison gate, causing it to sway unceasingly. This brat is troublesome. The prison gate will not be able to hold on for much longer. The Punishment King's face turned pale. Before this, he had thought that his opponent would be the Armored King. He had never thought that Yi Chen would be able to suppress him. Go! Making a quick decision, the second the prison gate was about to be cut open, the Punishment King activated his Zhen Yuan and shot out toward the surface of the lava lake. Yi Chen did not chase after him. He had already offended enough parties. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not plan to fight to the death with the Punishment King. Forcing him to leave would be more than enough. Once the Punishment King left, there were only 3 people left under the lava lake. Qing Lu and Yi Chen stood on the side, while the Armored King was alone. Alright, it seems like we have all made a mistake. The Armored King glanced at the ripe Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit reluctantly before flashing his body and flying up. He alone could not be Qing Lu and Yi Chen's opponent. Therefore, no matter how good the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit was, he would need to be alive to enjoy it. Right now he could only give it up. With all the powerful enemies gone, Qing Lu let out a sigh of relief. She then stared at Yi Chen as if he was a monster. No wonder Qing Xian said that as long as you enter the life and death realm, no one in this world would be able to do anything to you. You are even more powerful than she was before. I did not believe it at first, but now I do. Yi Chen only had late sea of soul realm cultivation base. If he reached the half-step king realm, then it would be even more terrifying. No half-step king would be his opponent. She even suspected that Yi Chen could break the rules of nature and defeat a life and death king as a half-step king. Of course, it was only a suspicion. Yi Chen smiled as he looked at the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Qing Lu said, "It's yours. This Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit is more valuable to you than to me." Then, Yi Chen will not be courteous. Yi Chen activated his soul eye, raising his attention and perception to the extreme. He then cautiously approached the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit tree, avoiding one golden chi flow after another. Soon, Yi Chen arrived beside the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit tree and reached out his hand to pluck the fruit. As soon as the fruit was plucked, the purple-red small tree immediately decayed and turned into ashes, no longer existing. Chapter 746. If I consume this Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, my spirit body will definitely rise to the 4th grade. However, it's a pity. The spirit body of a half-step king was at the 4th step, which was the key to becoming a half-step king. Yichen naturally did not have a 4th step spirit body. Back then, he had used the dragon blood grass to raise his spirit body to the 3rd step. During that time, his spirit body had basically not improved much, and was only at the mid-3rd step. Since the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit could raise the spirit body of a half-step king by half a step, then it would naturally be able to raise Yichen's spirit body by 1 step, or even close to it. Going from the 3rd step to the 4th step was almost guaranteed. However, the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit was something that could only be chanced upon and not sought. Using it now was truly a pity. If he could wait until his spirit body reached the mid or peak 4th step, he would be able to reach the 5th step immediately, which would be even more valuable than the 3rd step. It should be known that the 5th step spirit body was the average standard of life and death kings. In fact, when one first entered life and death realm, their spirit body would still be at the 4th step. Without any external help, it would be extremely difficult to reach the 5th step by relying on one's own efforts. It would take at least dozens of years, or even 100 years of effort. After thinking for a while, Yichen decided to wait until his cultivation base reached the peak of Late Sea of Soul Realm. At that time, if his spirit body was still at the 3rd step, he would eat the fruit. Let's go up. Qing Lu saw Yichen got the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit and said, glug glug glug. Golden bubbles appeared on the surface of the magma lake, and soon, 2 figures broke out of the water. When he came up, Yichen realized that the Armored King and the Punished King had both disappeared. The remaining people were less than half of the original number. These people did not expect that the one who would get the fruit would be Qing Lu and Yichen. Their eyes were all shining with excitement. If you don't want to die, you'd better behave yourself. Qing Lu reminded these people. Haha, not at all. Some people recalled the gloomy expressions of the Punishment King and the Armored King when they left and immediately knew what was going on. Since the Punishment King and the Armored King had suffered a loss, they wouldn't dare to steal the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit. Let's go. Yichen did not care about these people as he walked up with Qing Lu, Morong and the rest. In front of the White Sheep King's graveyard, the Thunder Spirit King sat cross-legged on the ground, waiting patiently. Behind him, more and more people rushed over from time to time. About an hour later, Yichen's group of 5 arrived. I'll get the door. Yichen glanced at Thunder Spirit King, Punishment King, and the others before he walked towards the entrance of the tomb. The 3rd key is with this kid? Punish King frowned. Adding in Yichen, 3 of the 4 keys were in the hands of this youngster. Furthermore, Yichen's strength made him extremely apprehensive. Haha, not bad. You didn't make me wait too long. Thunder Spirit King stood up. Creak. As Yichen inserted the key, the gate of Ares King's graveyard opened. With a swoosh, Thunder Spirit King was the first to enter. White Sheep King is good at illusion. We should be careful. Qing Lu walked over. Yichen nodded. As long as we don't separate, there shouldn't be any problems. Just as Qing Lu had said, Ares King's graveyard was filled with all kinds of illusion arrays. Some were used to trap people, some could cause illusions, and some could even lead people astray. Yichen and Qing Lu had the highest strength, and their soul power was also the most powerful. Although the illusion array had an effect on them, it was negligible. Morong Qingqing had the perfect demonic blood vessel, which gave her a powerful illusion immunity, so she was fine as well. As for Yin Fengfeng and Sun Tianlang, they suffered a bit. The former fell into an illusion once, and saw the people around her as enemies. The latter was, after all, a half-step king, and could restrain herself. Finally, I've obtained a space-profound martial skill. In a secret room, Thunder Spirit King held a jade strip in his hand as he laughed heartily. Although he was one of the strongest half-step kings, there were 2 others who were equally famous as him. There was no one who didn't wish to be a bit more powerful, and comprehend a bit more profound. Moreover, although half-step king in life and death realm seemed to only be separated by a thin line, it was actually an abyss. Without an opportunity, one would never be able to step into it in their lifetime. Before that, he had to make ample preparations to attack life and death realm. With this space-profound martial skill, my stagnant strength will certainly improve again, and I'll have an opportunity to attack life and death realm. Seems like the heavens are still taking care of me. Carefully putting away the jade strip, Thunder Spirit King left the secret room with a happy mood. When Yi Chen's group entered White Sheep King's graveyard, the 100 people following behind also entered Firebird King's graveyard. Unfortunately, not only did they not obtain any treasures, they were hunted down by 4 dangerous creatures, leaving not even their bones behind. In a passage, 2 half-step kings were trapped in midair, unable to budge. What trapped them was an incorporeal spider web that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Even if one were to release their soul power, they would have to search over and over again in order to sense the slightest trace. Unfortunately, who would have thought that there would be a spider web in the passage? A moment of carelessness, and they would be caught, losing control of their lives. Hehe. Another 2. Shadow Ghost Bat King didn't speak any nonsense. It bit the neck of a half-step king, and fiercely sucked his blood essence. As for the other half-step king, he became food for the 2 hunters, and was brutally dismembered. Licking his lips, Shadow Ghost Bat King threw away the dried corpse in his hand, and said with an evil smile, "With our strength, we have no opponents here. I hope we can meet that person." Shadow Ghost Bat King's pride was extremely strong, so he hated Thunder Spirit King, who had humiliated him. Recalling the scene of him begging for mercy, he gnashed his teeth in hatred. Swamp King said in a muffled voice, "He's very strong. It's best if we don't provoke him for now." Just like Shadow Ghost Bat King, Swamp King was also beaten miserably by Thunder Spirit King. Only after killing enough half-step kings with great difficulty did his strength recover. Afterwards, his strength returned to its peak, and his frontal battle strength was already at the peak of half-step kings. "I know what you're saying. I can feel that my strength has increased a lot." Shadow Ghost Bat King was different from other creatures. Within a certain limit, as long as he absorbed enough blood essence, his strength could increase. Along the way, he had killed 7 or 8 half-step kings. His strength had long since surpassed his peak, reaching a new height. This was also the source of his confidence. "Let's go." Shadow Ghost Bat King didn't say much and walked ahead. In White Sheep King's graveyard, Yi Chun and the rest didn't have any harvest. After half a day, the 5 arrived before Sky Scorpio King's graveyard. Unexpectedly, the graveyard's entrance was already open. They wondered who had the 4th key. Was it a youngster? Walking in the graveyard's passageway, Qing Lu said, "Sky Scorpio King is the strongest demonic beast king, under 4 Extreme Emperor. He's a rare demonic beast sword artist who likes to use swords. His sword art's realm is also very high. Back then, some even called him Sky Scorpio Sword King." Sky Scorpio King is a demonic beast sword artist who likes to collect swords. Perhaps there's a sword mound in his graveyard. Sword mound meant a graveyard of swords. Some powerful sword kings would build a sword mound for their beloved swords in addition to their own graveyard before their death. Apart from their beloved swords, there were also many treasured swords in the sword mound. Sky Scorpio King is a sword artist? Yi Chen felt that it was very novel. Qing Lu nodded. Right, Sky Scorpio King's sword was also very famous at that time. It's called Sky Scorpio Sword. It's said that he forged it himself, using supreme-grade materials. Some of them can't even be found on True Spirit Continent, and can only be found on some planets in the starry sky. Because some planets contain special energy, his Sky Scorpio sword also inherited this energy, greatly increasing its destructive power. It's much more powerful than ordinary supreme-grade swords. Of course, I'm only guessing. Perhaps Sky Scorpio King won't build a sword mound. Let's hope we're lucky. The Battle King's sword in Yi Chen's storage ring was also a supreme-grade sword, but it was damaged and didn't have a trace of power. Forging it again would be meaningless. However, the damaged Battle King's sword also had value. If Yi Chen wanted to forge a sword, he he could extract some useful materials from the damaged sword, saving him a lot of effort. Sky Scorpio King's graveyard was the largest among the 4 demonic beast kings. After walking for half a day, the 5 still hadn't reached the end. There is Sword Chi. Yi Chun, who was walking in front, suddenly frowned as he tried to sense it carefully. Are there sword artists battling? Qing Lu asked. Yi Chun shook his head slightly. No, this sword chi is different from the sword chi that was shot out. It is the chi of the sword, and there are many kinds of them. Yi Chun was a sword artist, so he was very sensitive to sword chi. It might be the location of the sword grave. Qing Lu's eyes brightened. Follow me. With the subtle feeling of the sword chi, Yi Chun led the way in the front. After a few turns, Yi Chun and the other 4 unknowingly arrived in front of a massive stone door. The door was half opened, and countless kinds of sword chi leaked out, cutting the air. It is indeed the sword grave, Qing Lu said with certainty. Someone has already entered. Yi Chun glanced at the half-opened door, flashed his body and flew in. So many swords. Once the 5 entered, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Yen Fengfeng and Morong Qingqing even lifted up their heads, their mouths wide open. In their sight, there were swords everywhere. Inside the sword grave, there were all kinds of swords. There were swords stuck in the low places, and there were also swords stuck in the high places. Every few steps, there would be a sword stuck in the ground. Looking over, there was no end to the sword grave at all. This is a low-rank great sword. Yi Chun touched one of the swords on the outside and said. Morong Qingqing said strangely. After tens of thousands of years, the low-rank great swords should not be able to survive. How come the swords here do not seem to be damaged at all? Yi Chun said. If I have guessed it right, after the passage of time, the swords in the sword grave had already sensed each other, and could use sword chi to nourish each other. And the other would also use sword chi to nourish each other. There are thousands of swords here, thousands of sword chi lingering around, which had become the best nourishment for these swords. Therefore, after tens of thousands of years, the swords here have become sharper instead of damaged. Yen Fengfeng said, perhaps there really is the Sky Scorpio sword here. Let's go look for it. It does not seem easy. These swords have the same chi, and they seem to be hiding their chi. Morong Qingqing looked around, but could not see anything. Yi Chun smiled. You are right. The swords have their own spirits, and will not release their chi in public. Therefore, if we want to find a good sword, we would have to understand it very well, and have a pair of sharp eyes. Alright, I would like to see if I can find the Sky Scorpio sword among these thousands of swords. Chapter 747. There were too many swords in the sword mound. As far as the eye could see, it was like a sea of swords, a mountain of swords. Countless sword chi clashed in the air, issuing metallic clanging sounds. Yi Chun walked at the front alone, gradually going deeper. What a powerful sword chi! He couldn't sense how powerful the sword chi was from the outside. But as he went deeper, more and more incorporeal sword chi slashed at Yi Chun, as if wanting to cut him into countless pieces. The sword chi accumulated by thousands upon thousands of swords was no joke. Plus, Yi Chun realized that being surrounded by so many great swords, his sight and soul power started to get mixed up. Just by looking with his naked eyes and sensing with his soul power, he could not tell which sword was special at all. In fact, he even had the illusion that all of them were good swords. Seems like I can only rely on my intuition towards swords. Yi Chun's expression didn't change, as he resolutely walked forward, using his heart to sense the call of the swords. In this huge sword mound, there seemed to be no sword that was the same. Not only were they of different colors, even their shapes were bizarre. Some swords were as tall as a person, broad and heavy, weighing no less than several thousand jin. Some swords were as long as a forearm, and as wide as a finger. Although they were called swords, they were actually more like extended daggers. Some swords were covered in sawtooth edges, brimming with evil chi. Some swords had a forked front like a snake's tongue. Some swords were incomparably gorgeous, inlaid with all kinds of gems and crystals. There were also some swords that were extremely simple, only made of 2 pieces of wood. With so many treasured swords, With so many shapes and auras, no one knew which swords were good, and which swords were just for show and not powerful at all. Sky Scorpio Sword. Where is it? Before Yi Chun and the rest entered, a half-step king had already entered. This half-step king was a sword artist with the title of Metal Sword King. He primarily cultivated metal attribute Jin Yuan, and his profound was also metal profound. His sword arts were incomparably sharp and unstoppable, displaying the sharpness of metal. He was quite famous among half-step kings. It was already not bad to have a supreme-grade sword in the sword mound. Without a doubt, the Sky Scorpio sword was the strongest in the sword mound of the Sky Scorpio King. However, there were too many swords in the sword mound, and these swords had their own spirituality. They didn't deliberately release their aura, but instead knew how to hide their aura. Then, through the myriad of sword chi, they could confuse the senses, making it even harder to find the Sky Scorpio sword. As far as the Metal Sword King was concerned, semi-extreme grade swords had no meaning other than selling them for some upper-grade spirit stones. Therefore, he only had one target, the Sky Scorpio sword. I don't believe I can't find the Sky Scorpio sword. The Metal Sword King was extremely confident that he could find the Sky Scorpio sword. If he didn't have confidence, he wouldn't have become a half-step king with the identity of a sword artist. Suddenly, the Metal Sword King's attention was attracted by a flicker of golden light. A faint golden sword was stabbed into the pit in front of him. The sword's body was long and slender, and two words were carved on its hilt, Jining. Although this sword was deliberately hiding its aura, its sharpness couldn't be concealed. As long as one approached it, one could feel the sword chi that seemed capable of cutting one's soul. Good sword. Moreover, it's a metal attribute sword. The Metal Sword King's face lit up as he extended his hand, intending to pull it out. But halfway through, the Metal Sword King hesitated. His target was the Sky Scorpio sword. Clearly, this sword couldn't be the Sky Scorpio sword. He hadn't heard that the Sky Scorpio sword was metal attribute, and the Sky Scorpio King himself was not a metal attribute demonic beast. Moreover, the two words carved on the hilt of the sword should be the name of the sword. The Jining sword is extraordinary. It's definitely a supreme grade sword. I can't let it go. In any case, after taking the Jining sword, I'll go find the Sky Scorpio sword. After a moment of hesitation, the Metal Sword King grabbed the hilt of the Jining sword and pulled it out. Clang! As the sword was pulled out, a golden sword chi soared into the sky and circled above the sword mound. At the same time, hundreds of swords in the surroundings rang out, seemingly paying homage to the sword in the Metal Sword King's hand. Seeing this, the Metal Sword King let out a sigh of relief. His consciousness sank into the Jining sword, determining its grade. The higher the grade of a sword, the more difficult it was to determine when it was hiding its aura. It was unlike a low-grade sword, which could be determined with a touch. After a while, an incomparably disappointed expression flickered on the Metal Sword King's face. The Jining sword was not an extreme-grade sword, not even a semi-extreme grade sword. It was only an upper-grade sword. As far as he was concerned, it was just a piece of scrap metal without the slightest value. Depressed, the Metal Sword King pulled out an ordinary longsword beside him as if venting. How is this possible? What astonished the Metal Sword King was that this ordinary longsword he had casually pulled out unexpectedly blossomed with an icy blue radiance. The sword chi radiated in the surroundings, causing the surrounding longswords to sway. It's a semi-extreme grade sword. After a careful inspection, the Metal Sword King discovered that this was a semi-extreme grade sword. Before this, he had only treated it as an ordinary low-grade sword and didn't pay much attention to it. Could it be that in this sword catacomb, the more high-profile a sword is, the lower the chances of it being a good sword, even though its grade isn't too low? On the other hand, ordinary and inconspicuous swords have a higher chance of being a good sword, or even a supreme grade sword. This result made the Metal Sword King very excited. He had finally found a pattern. Swords have sword bones. If the sword bones are upright, the sword chi will be strong. Yi Chun was like a cursory glance as he shuttled through the mountains and seas of swords. Occasionally, he would come across a sword with a clear sword bone and touch it. It was easy to see that the swords Yi Chen touched were not all of the same style. Some swords were high profile and powerful, showing off their sharpness. Some swords were calm like water, silently nourishing everything. Some swords were simple and unadorned but not refined. He wasn't like the Metal Sword King, who only paid attention to the sword's aura and unintentionally pulled out a simple sword, thinking that it was better to be unremarkable. In Yi Chen's opinion, a powerful aura and a simple and unadorned form were just the appearance of a sword. Perhaps he might come across a good sword if he was lucky, but most of the time, he would be disappointed. The more powerful the sword, the more spirituality it had. A sword with spirituality was no longer an inanimate object. It had a sword bone, just like humans. Humans had bones in their bodies, and some masters would describe geniuses with potential as having a clear and wondrous bone. Therefore, a good sword would also have a good sword bone. Of course, nothing was absolute. Perhaps there would be a sword with a bad sword bone, but a powerful sword chi. But everyone had their own area of expertise, and it could not be forced. On the way, Yi Chen had also seen some semi-extreme rank swords, but he did not pull them out. Before he found the Sky Scorpio sword, he would not pull out any sword. It was not because he had sensed something, but it was just his instinct. The swords in the sword grave had been through tens of thousands of years, and their spirituality was much stronger than other swords of the same rank. If he pulled out another sword right now, it would be disrespectful to the Sky Scorpio sword, and he might miss it. As for Qing Lu and the rest, they did not have this concern. They saw some decent swords and pulled them out. However, after each of them had pulled out a couple of swords, the sword chi and the sword grave suddenly started to target them. Before, the sword chi in the sword grave was formed naturally, but this sword chi was created by countless swords. The sword chi was 10 times stronger than before, and even Qing Lu was not feeling well, so she stopped pulling out her sword. So many swords that look exactly the same? After walking for 10 minutes, everyone's vision blurred. Looking over dozens of meters ahead, there was a huge area filled with swords that looked exactly the same. These swords were all around 4 feet long, silver with a hint of purple. The sword hilt was black, and it looked like a black scorpion. The tail of the black scorpion was the tip of the hilt, and its 2 huge pincers were opened, forming a sword socket, protecting the sword artist's palm. And in the middle of the sword socket, there were 2 peanut-sized red gems, which looked like the eyes of the black scorpion. The silver with a hint of purple sword body was spat out from the black scorpion's mouth. It was extremely sharp, and its aura alone gave people an unbearable feeling. Sky Scorpio sword. It must be the Sky Scorpio sword, but why are there so many? Qing Lu's breath slightly increased as she mumbled to herself. There should only be one real one, and the rest are all replicas. Although Morong Qingqing said so, when she used her demon eyes, she realized that every sword was exactly the same. Even the aura was exactly the same. She could not tell which one was special. There is only one real Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen's expression turned serious as he walked over one step at a time. Haha, first come, first served. These Sky Scorpio swords are all mine. I'll go back and slowly figure them out. Just as Yi Chen was walking over, another figure walked out from another direction. It was the Metal Sword King. Seeing so many Sky Scorpio swords, his face revealed a joyful expression. He waved his hand, and his Zhen Yuan formed a huge hand, wanting to collect all the Sky Scorpio swords into his storage ring. Overestimating yourself. Yi Chen did not stop him, revealing a sneer on his face. Ting! Just as Yi Chen finished his words, hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords made a ringing sound. Purple sword chi spiraled out and gathered together, forming a huge purple sword aura. It slashed apart the Metal Sword King's huge Zhen Yuan hand, then slashed toward his body. What? The Metal Sword King was shocked. He pulled out his great sword and blocked in front of him. Kacha! The great sword in the Metal Sword King's hand was a semi-extreme rank great sword, called the Absolute Gold Sword. It had accompanied him for dozens of years, stained with the blood of countless experts. However, under the purple sword aura's attack, the Absolute Gold Sword was immediately broken, shattering like a crystal. A wave of sword chi passed through the shattered absolute gold sword and heavily attacked the metal sword king's protective Zhen Yuan. Pooh! Spurting out a huge mouthful of blood, the metal sword king was sent flying, knocking away countless swords along the way. The swords flew everywhere like flying swords. Qing Lu and the rest were shocked by this scene. Hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords had actually released sword chi on their own, causing a half-step sword king to puke out blood. Even the semi-extreme rank great sword was shattered in one strike. If not for the semi-extreme rank great sword blocking, the purple sword aura might have killed the metal sword king completely. There must be a Sky Scorpio sword inside. Qing Lu was even more certain of her thoughts. Even if all the Sky Scorpio swords here were upper rank great swords, they would not be able to break a semi-extreme rank great sword. If it were that easy to break, it would not be a semi-extreme rank great sword. It should be known that even normal life and death realm warriors would not be able to break a semi-extreme rank great weapon with one strike, unless it had no master. Damn it! How could it be like this? The metal sword king was heavily wounded, lying on the ground, unable to get up. Looking carefully, one could see that the clothes on his chest had already crystallized, turning into tiny particles. The skin in front of his chest had also crystallized with many cracks on it. The power of the purple sword aura was horrifying, and it was still under the condition of not having a master. Chapter 748. In that split second, 3 Sky Scorpio swords were the first to release sword chi, and the others followed closely behind. Yi Chen clearly saw that hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords seemed to release sword chi at the same time, but in fact, 3 swords were the fastest, and seemed to be guiding the others. However, there is only one true Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen walked into the crowd of Sky Scorpio swords. The auras of the 3 swords are the same, and the sword bones are also about the same. There is no difference between them. Yi Chen didn't pull out any of the Sky Scorpio swords, but only touched them one by one, feeling the subtle differences in auras, and the feeling they gave him. However, the result left him puzzled. These 3 swords, no matter how he looked at them, were the same. Yi Chen, is Sky Scorpio sword among these 3? Morong Qingqing asked. Yi Chen shook his head. I don't know either. A moment ago, he was sure that the true Sky Scorpio sword was among these 3 swords, but now, he didn't dare to be sure. Even if there were some slight differences in appearance and sword bones, they were at the same level. Among these 3 swords, which one is the true Sky Scorpio sword? Yi Chen stood in the middle of the 3 swords, pondering with his head lowered. Or maybe I'm wrong, and the true Sky Scorpio sword isn't among them. Immediately, a new idea popped up in Yi Chen's mind. Yes, this is a possibility. If the Sky Scorpio sword was the first to release sword chi, then there should only be 1, and not 3. The reason for the 3 is very likely to be the Sky Scorpio sword trying to confuse me, diverting my attention to these 3 swords, while it hid among the other swords. I didn't expect that I was almost fooled by a sword. Raising his head, Yi Chen revealed a smile. You are not. You are not either. Strolling among the Sky Scorpio swords, Yi Chen touched them one by one. This method was stupid, but also the most practical. Anyway, there were only 500 to 600 Sky Scorpio swords here, and it wouldn't take long to touch them all. He didn't want to be fooled by them. It seems to be you. After touching more than 300 Sky Scorpio swords, Yi Chen finally found the one that was most likely to be the Sky Scorpio sword. When he touched the sword, there was nothing strange at first. However, after rubbing it for a while, he immediately felt an extremely overbearing power stirring. As this feeling arose, Yi Chen caught a glimpse of a faint purple light flashing across the blade of the sword. If he didn't look carefully, he would have missed it. Senior Qing Lu had said that the Sky Scorpio sword had a material that came from a planet in the sky, containing a special power. Other swords do not have this kind of vibration, only this sword does. It was rare for treasures to possess special powers. They were usually inherited from the materials they were forged from, so it was impossible to fake them. This sword was most likely the genuine one. If that's not the case, I'll admit it. Yi Chen firmly believed in his choice. A swordsman's greatest taboo was hesitation. Clang! With his hand on the hilt, Yi Chen pulled out the Sky Scorpio sword. The second Yi Chen pulled out the Sky Scorpio sword. The sword suddenly shone with a purple light. Under the purple light, the ground nearby, and the other Sky Scorpio sword started to form purple crystals at an extremely fast speed. The crystals expanded gradually, eventually covering dozens of meters in radius. What kind of power is this? Yi Chen's eyebrows flicked as his left hand touched the hilt of a Sky Scorpio sword right next to him, then slightly tightened his grip. Bang! A shocking scene happened. This sword, which was at least a mid-rank one, was shattered like a purple crystal. Purple crystal iron. I did not expect that there would be purple crystal iron in the Sky Scorpio sword. Qing Lu blurted out. Yan Fengfeng asked, Teacher, what is purple crystal iron? How come I have never heard of it? Qing Lu said, even within the top quality metals, there are good ones and bad ones. The most famous ones are the top 10 metals, and the purple crystal iron is one of them, ranked number 7. The purple crystal iron contains the power of crystallization, and most of the objects that are touched by the purple light will immediately crystallize. Even if it is the same rank materials, if they are touched by the purple light for too long, they will also be damaged. Then this is the Sky Scorpio sword. Morong Qingqing felt that the Sky Scorpio sword in Yi Chen's hand seemed to be normal except for the powerful purple light. Otherwise, why did it have no reaction after being pulled out? Ting! Just as Morong Qingqing finished her sentence, the Sky Scorpio sword in Yi Chen's hand suddenly enlarged, from 4 feet and 2 feet to 3 meters, 2 meters, 3 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters huge Sky Scorpio sword, which was even bigger than Yi Chen's body. Yi Chen's figure could no longer be seen. Once the Sky Scorpio sword enlarged, it created a horrifying commotion. The sword chi inside the sword grave became more and more intense, like a tornado. In the next second, all of the swords were pulled out automatically, floating in the air with the Sky Scorpio sword as the center. They slowly rotated like thousands of swords worshipping each other. This is the real Sky Scorpio sword? The Metal Sword King's eyes were wide open. It is indeed the extreme rank Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen laughed heartily. The 30-meter-long Sky Scorpio sword was extremely heavy, weighing at least 10,000 jin. Lifting it in his hand felt like lifting a small mountain. As far as he knew, only some special semi-extreme grade artifacts could enlarge it. Only extreme grade artifacts could do this. And he had already examined it carefully. And it was indeed an extreme grade artifact. It was the real deal. Yi Chen, congratulations. The Sky Scorpio sword contains the purple crystal iron. Even among the extreme rank weapons, it is still a top-grade weapon. Qing Lu was very envious of Yi Chen's luck. There were so many life and death realm warriors who wanted an extreme rank weapon, but failed to do so. And Yi Chen was only at late Sea of Souls realm. But he already had an extreme rank sword. If this news got out, it would definitely make countless people jealous. This might be my lucky chance. Yi Chen was imprinting the soul mark on the Sky Scorpio sword. Without it, he would not be able to make the sword smaller. If it did not shrink, not only would it take up a lot of space, it would also be unusable. Yeah, you have one of the keys, so you must have had a great fortune. The Sky Scorpio sword should belong to you. Qing Lu thought about it and agreed with him. For keys, for people would get them. And the ones who got them would be people with great fortune and fortune. Imprinting the soul mark on the Sky Scorpio sword was very easy. After tens of thousands of years, the soul mark that the Sky Scorpio King had left on the sword had already been used up. Right now, the sword was ownerless. Imprinting the soul mark on an ownerless object would not be a problem. Soon, Yi Chen successfully imprinted his own soul mark on the sword. Shrink. Yi Chen controlled the Sky Scorpio sword through the soul mark. Whoosh! The Sky Scorpio sword shrunk back to its original size, 4 feet and 2 inches. Holding the Sky Scorpio sword in his right hand, Yi Chen did not pour in his Zhenyuan, and casually waved it twice. Crack! 2 crystal marks appeared in the air, which was the sign of air crystallization. One could imagine that even an ordinary person holding the Sky Scorpio sword would be able to kill a powerful martial artist, provided that he could lift it up. This Sky Scorpio sword weighed over 10,000 jin, and Yi Chen's strength exceeded 400,000 jin. Adding the explosive Zhen Yuan, he could only wave it around with a weight of more than several 100,000 jin. This Sky Scorpio sword is an extreme grade sword. You can't keep it. Give it to me, and you can live for a few more years. Otherwise, if I leak the news, you will die for sure. The Metal Sword King had unknowingly finished recuperating his body. He stood up and greedily stared at the sword in Yi Chen's hand. Yi Chen glanced at the Metal Sword King. I'm afraid even you can't keep it. I have my methods. You better think about it. One wrong move, and you might lose your life. Of course, I won't take your sword for nothing. I will compensate you for your loss. On the other hand, if you don't agree, then the news of you getting the sword will leak out. I believe there will be a lot of life and death kings eyeing it. Sorry, not possible. Yi Chen's expression was cold. Then don't blame me. Shoo. The Metal Sword King flew out of the sword grave, increasing his speed to the limit. Obviously, he was also afraid of Yi Chen and Qing Lu joining hands. We can't let him live. Qing Lu took out her sky hammer, preparing to attack. Senior, let me do it. Yi Chen would naturally not let the Metal Sword King go. If the latter had not threatened him, he might have hesitated a bit and not killed him right away. But now there was no need for that. The latter would die for sure. Holding the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen raised it up high. Dense Zhen Yuan poured into the sword through the Laogong meridian in his palm. Ting! The purple light on the Sky Scorpio sword shone brightly, illuminating a purple halo. At the same time, a purple sword light appeared on the tip of the sword. Go! A vein popped out on Yi Chen's forehead. Waving both of his hands, the Sky Scorpio sword slashed down. No one could describe how breathtaking this sword was. Time within the sword mound seemed to slow down until it came to a standstill. All moving objects seemed to be frozen in that instant. As for the Golden Sword King, his flying speed grew slower and slower, but he himself didn't notice it. The purple sword light was like a purple shooting star in the universe. It instantly slashed at the back of the Metal Sword King, not giving him any time to react. Kacha! The Metal Sword King's body was directly cut into two, and it was not over yet. The two halves of the corpse instantly crystallized, looking like two pieces of purple crystal. After the purple sword light cut through the Metal Sword King's body, the remaining power did not dissipate. It pierced through the wall of the sword grave as well, landing on the opposite wall. Of course, the opposite wall could not block it. Just like that, the purple sword light pierced through countless walls before stopping. Pung! The two crystallized corpses fell on the ground, shattering into pieces. With one sword, the Metal Sword King died miserably. Moreover, it was the kind of crushing death without any suspense. Huff! Seeing the Metal Sword King killed, Yi Chen heavily gasped for breath. His complexion was incomparably pale, and beads of cold sweat dripped down his face. That sword strike just now had completely emptied his Zhen Yuan, not leaving a trace behind. It seemed as if it wished to drain his blood. That feeling of Zhen Yuan being emptied, in an instant, made Yi Chen extremely weak. He could not even hold the Sky Scorpio sword tightly, and it stabbed into the ground. This Sky Scorpio sword is simply an insatiable black hole. Yi Chen faintly sensed that even with all his Zhen Yuan, he might not be able to use the Sky Scorpio sword's full strength. 50 to 60% of its might would already be pretty good. Perhaps he would need to reach half-step King Realm before he could fully display its might. Fortunately, I have the Dragon God Medal. The Dragon God Medal was the highest medal of the Dragon God Celestial Palace. At the same time, it was a treasure that could store a third of Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan. Activating the Dragon God Medal, a large amount of Zhen Yuan poured into Yi Chen's body. This Zhen Yuan and Yi Chen's were of the same origin, without the slightest conflict. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.